Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Jersey Joe Corner. It is brought to you by Big Heads Media. It is going to be a great hockey season coming right up. A lot of interesting things. Anchor.fm will help you start your podcast and get things rolling. It's going to be a lot smoother when you get the Anchor app, and it's so much easier to navigate. Even their online website at anchor.fm is very efficient, and you can do a lot of great things with it. And I stand by it myself. And I must say, it's time to say, let's go Devils.
With the first pick overall, the New Jersey Devils are proud to select from the U.S. program, Jack Hughes.
Plays it across, Vatanen drives, score! Sammy Vatanen let it rip. It's a power play goal, and the Devils have opened it up. Oh, my. Nico walking in, shooting, score! Nico Hischier on the rush, ends it in overtime, and the Devils win it in Montreal.
Hey, Jimmy, welcome on to the Jersey Joe Corner.
What's up, Jersey Joe? It's Jersey Jim here on a
Hey.
Wednesday night. It's a rainy Wednesday night, though.
It's very rainy, kind of like a certain situation that's kind of getting addressed. Kind of like having your assistant GM coming down from the press box and started to lace up the skates and trying to straighten things out.
Yeah, I mean, this is a little strange development here with the New Jersey Devils today. And not that we're going to be negative. We don't want to be negative today. We're trying not to be negative. We don't want to be negative. We want to be positive. And I see this as a good move for the New Jersey Devils. I really do. Because having a different voice in the locker room, on the ice, may shape the players up, may shake the coaching staff up. He may see some things that the players and the staff there haven't. That way we can fix the problem that is the New Jersey Devils offense and most specifically their defense.
And it's been a downer of the past couple of days since the loss to the Florida Panthers. You know, we talk about righting the ship, and you know what? Today being a rainy one, I believe, when you have someone of the higher up like Tommy Fitzgerald, who's, as Taylor Hall said, getting down in the trenches and, starting to lace things up. It's good to get someone to really straighten things out. There's a lot of chaos, but someone's going to start controlling this chaos, and it's Tommy Fitzgerald. He did something like this not long ago in Pittsburgh back in 2009 season.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have just another set of eyes in there. And like you said, 2009 with the Penguins, he was on the bench. So he's had experience behind the bench. He was a good NHL forward in his time. So, just having that experience behind the bench will be good. I mean, he can help, Rick Kowalski, Alain Nasreddine, Mike Greer, just show them like the way how a bench is going to be run, how to fix a power play, just little things here and there, maybe a little nuances. Like we said, there's a problem. Management knows there's a problem. Hopefully this is the way they can fix the problem, or else this is going to be a really, really long season.
All right, so we talked about nuances. We talk about management. We got a guy that knows his numbers and a guy that knows how to analyze things. We got ourselves our inside hockey analytics guy, and I'm going to start to call in Tyler Kelley. And I know he's probably awaiting, so him in and get him in on this Anchor app. I just sent him in.
Yeah,
So now,
it was a good.
So, yeah, so now you talk about the way they start to right the ship. Tell me more what you talked about with 960 Mississauga.
All right, so this morning I was on the Mike Richards show on Saga 960 with David Bastel, a good friend of mine. We've talked throughout the years, via Twitter when they were on TSN. He had me on this morning talking some Devils. We were on beforehand talking Winnipeg Jets a couple of weeks ago. But basically we're looking at, what's wrong with the team. And my biggest concern and the biggest thing I see is that you have to have your top-tier talent playing with other top-tier talent. A guy like Jack Hughes we brought up, for example, talking about how, he's playing on the third line. He's averaging 16 minutes, but a lot of those minutes are on a power play. And he's centering a third line. But that doesn't really help his development. And with Nico Hischier listed as day-to-day, he's going to be, relied upon up on that top unit, as I wrote about in my article today about the Devils listing Nico Hischier day-to-day. So Hughes with Hall and Palmieri, you could see a spark there with offensively.
And trying to cash in on important times of a game. We have a guy on the line, and Tyler Kelley from Pucks and Pitchforks. Tyler, welcome to the Jersey Joe Corner along with Jersey Jim.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for being on.
So, Tyler, you did a fantastic job the other night on the Let's Go Devils podcast. They were giving you all these nice little curveball questions. Can you talk about the conundrums in the high danger, low danger scoring areas that the Devils have been missing out on?
Yeah, so I think it's been pretty obvious since John Hines took over that he definitely values high danger chances over, your standard shot share, your Corsi 4, your Fenwick, stuff like that, or even just your standard scoring chances he values. And I think most coaches would agree with that sentiment. But when you actually break down the numbers, it's not like Hines, any of his teams, the Devils specifically, since 2015 have really been able to dominate those high danger chances. The only year that the Devils actually were towards the top of the league in high danger chance percentage was 2017-18. I think they were sixth in the league. But they're still generating a low volume of those chances. Regardless of the percentage, they've been towards the bottom of the league in chances for and chances against pretty much since he took over. They're really just a low event hockey team.
Yeah, so, with the Devils, struggling offensively really in those high danger areas, just want to shift over defensively for a minute. And what are the numbers saying about who should play with PK Subban? Because obviously they've been trying a couple of guys back there, Sammy Vatanen and Andy Green to begin the year, and recently David Severson. What are the numbers saying in regards to, who's the best fit for him?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Going into the season, I thought the answer was Sammy Vatanen. I still think that's the answer. And that's not just because I think he's the best fit with Subban. I think that's also because it has the best trickle-down effect when you look at the rest of the lineup. Will Butcher and Damon Severson over the past 2 years have actually played well together. It's not often defense pairing that over a 2-year period has had a shot share percentage of over 50. But Butcher and Severson, if you look at them over the past 2 years, they have a for together a 50.5, high danger chance for a 53.6, and an expected goals for percentage of 52.2. So that's a good pairing. That's something the Devils haven't used, but something they should use. They've played a little over almost 350 minutes of 5v5 together. So if you're using that as your second pairing, you're setting up yourself for success, because then you have Sammy and Subban together, and Subban and Vatanen had a good preseason together. They've only played together once this season, and it didn't go well, but that's okay. Like, nothing's gone right for the Devils so far this year. So why not just try it again? The third pairing is, as long as Green's out, it's going to be a nightmare. There's nothing you can do about that. Like, there's nothing you can do. Your options are Carrick, Tennyson, and I like Carrick. But your options are Carrick, Tennyson, and Mirko Mueller. So it's going to be bad. There's nothing you can do about that at this point. But yeah, so Subban and Vatanen played together one game this year. They had a rough. They have a rough go of it. They had a 22.6 expected goals percentage, 33 Corsi, and their high danger chance percentage was 20. So they just straight up did not have a good night, and that's okay because it's a limited sample size. So if I was setting the pairings, I would go Vatanen and Subban, and then I'd go Butcher and Severson, and then on that third pairing, just whoever throw some darts, and whoever you put together. It's not going to matter.
A man of my own heart right here when it comes to Andy Green, and I wouldn't say hatred or dislike for him, but we all know that he is not that great defensively anymore. He was, but he isn't any longer. Sticking here, one thing the Devils have been struggling with is their power play. Do you have from the games you've watched, and I have kind of an idea of how to fix it, but I want to get your opinion on it. What do you think the Devils need to do on their power play to start scoring some goals, since it's ranked not near the bottom, it is at the bottom of the league?
Power play's had a lot of struggles, and we've all seen that. But the problem is, I don't like the system they run. They run the 1-3-1, and I think it takes a lot of creativity away from the players. I think what you're seeing is a lot of forced passes with, even Hughes in the last game. The second unit actually looks really good. I don't want to overly criticize him, but the second unit kind of changed it up, where you saw Gusev was almost running the power play from almost the corner. He was running it not along the sidewall where you see the Devils traditionally run their power play. But they're really only generating shots from three areas on the power play, and it's the top of both circles, and they're trying to generate more shots from the middle of the ice. And that's not a bad game plan necessarily. Those shots from the top of the circle aren't they're not the highest danger shots, but when you have Taylor Hall and Kyle Palmieri taking those shots, they're higher than most. So what I would do is pretty much exactly what they've done with the units that we saw Amanda Stein put out today. I think it's Hall, Hughes, and Palmieri in the middle of the ice, and then sorry about that.
That's all good.
Chewy.
That's all good. All good.
And so then all right. So we have Sammy Vatanen running again. Chewy, come here. Sammy Vatanen running the point again, and down low Wayne Simmons. And so I think that's actually a good setup. What I would do is I would have Taylor Hall run it on his offhand, so on that right side wall. Then you have Sammy Vatanen set up for the one-timer, Kyle Palmieri set up for the one-timer, and you can have Hughes work the middle of the ice and Simmons work the front of the net. If that's the system they're going to run, that works. I personally don't like the system they run, but it is what it is. The key is to maximize the talent that they have on the team, and I don't think that this system necessarily does.
Yeah, we're in conversation here with Tyler Kelley, Bucks and Pitchforks, their analytics guy. I agree with you on the power play. I just don't like the system they run either. At times, from the games I've watched, there just seems so much pressure the penalty killers are putting on them, especially when the point man, is so close to the blue line. They're trying to make these thin passes, just trying to move everything, looking for that one-timer. I like what Toronto runs. Granted, everybody can't have the players that Toronto has with Matthews, Marner, and Tavares out there, but I like how they have that high guy right at the hash marks, and then Matthews and Marner are on their strong wings, and they can make either a pass up or to Tavares or to the other side. And maybe that's something the Devils could incorporate, but I just don't know who would run that middle position like Tavares is for the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, that's Tavares. He's probably the best power forward in the NHL right now. He's so good down low, and that's somewhere I think the Devils could actually use Nico Hischier. I think they really underutilize him, especially on special teams. Like, he's so good net front. He's his hand-eye is phenomenal. He gets his stick on the puck for deflections. He's probably one of the best in the league in that regard. And I'd love to see him work down low in that role. I really think he'd excel there. He put on a lot of weight this offseason. I think he'd be great there. And then with Hughes, Palmieri, Gusev, Butcher, there's so much talent that the Devils can use on the power play. And obviously you can't have more than 5 players in the ice. So whatever you do, you're limited. But they have a lot of talent, so they don't have to hem themselves into this 1-3-1 system that they've been running since Hines took over. And I don't think they'll change it midseason, and I don't really fault them for that. But if there is a coaching staff change, I wouldn't be shocked to see the power play change drastically.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that's going to change. It's just, for me, one of the things I've noticed, and I don't know if you've noticed it too. I mean, I've seen your tweets out there, and I'm glad we're following each other and liking our stuff. But one of the things that I've said is, it's what has changed so much from the end of the preseason when this team it had real chemistry to the start of the regular season. It just seems that there's something off. Can it all be traced to blowing a 4-0 lead to Winnipeg?
It's hard to say. I don't really know. They did look good in preseason, but preseason is preseason,
Right.
Like it doesn't matter.
Right,
It doesn't matter
exactly.
the sport. Like, any team can look great in preseason, and then they come out and go undefeated in preseason, and then they come out and they're absolute trash in the regular season. The reality is, in preseason, you're playing split squads the entire time, so it's not shocking to see them do well in preseason, especially seeing players like Gusev and Hughes who played well together in preseason. Probably matched up more against lesser competition, and then you jump into the regular season and teams are actually matching lines and they're only playing NHL players, so it's a little bit more of an adjustment to regular season versus preseason.
Very true. Yeah. It's just a lot of expectations on this team coming in with all the changes. One of the things is, like I talked about this morning, I was on Saga 960 with Dave Bassel and Mike Richards. And, it's funny that John Hines got his extension in January of last season, but the team really had only made the playoffs once. Now, obviously, teams, don't want to wait to give coaches, wait too long to give coaches extensions. But do you think the Devils made a mistake in giving him an extension that soon?
No, because I don't think that extension is going to keep them from moving on if they're going to move on. I think that's one of those things where you don't necessarily want a coach going into the last year of his deal and coaching, because then he knows he's coaching for his job. You want the coach to feel comfortable and coach the way he's going to coach. So as much as I didn't like the extension at the time, I don't think anybody did. It was really bad timing, in all honesty. I think it actually made sense in that you don't want a coach or a GM going into a year with nothing left on their deal, because that's when panic mode sets in. That's when they start making rash decisions. So I don't necessarily think it was a bad idea, and I don't think that keeps him from being fired if it gets to that point this year, which I don't think it's going to be that much longer to get to that point if the next 2 games don't go the right way for the Devils.
Yeah, in conversation again with Tyler Kelley, Pucks and Pitchforks analytics guy. Let's move on. Let's stay with special teams for a minute. Let's go over to the penalty kill, another area that has not looked really good for the Devils. From your perspective, what do you think they need to do differently to have their percentage on the penalty kill rise and make them look better and maybe kill off more power plays from the opposing team?
The penalty kill is a tough one because a lot of it is your penalty kill is only as good as, at the very worst, it's only as good as your goalie. So the Devils and I'm not trying to pin this all on Corey Schneider and Mackenzie Blackwood, because that would just be insane. It's not their fault. But the Devils at this point in the season have the third highest expected goals against per 60 on the penalty kill. So that's obviously bad. And it's tough to say what they need to fix, because they've traditionally had a really good penalty kill. And Pavel Zacha and Blake Coleman specifically are two really good penalty killers. And there hasn't been much turnover in that bottom six. Really, they've only lost Stefan Nason, so they haven't lost much there. But what they did lose, or who they did lose, was Ben Lovejoy. And as much as a lot of Devils fans hated Ben Lovejoy, he was a great third pairing defenseman. And he was a phenomenal penalty killer. You knew exactly what you were getting in Ben Lovejoy. He wasn't going to generate a ton of offense, but he was good in the defensive zone. He was a lockdown defender. You could put him with Butcher, and Butcher could do what he wanted to do on the third pair. And then they played him a ton on the penalty kill. He just ate a ton of minutes with Andy Green. And the biggest issue going forward for the Devils is that although Andy Green isn't great at 5v5 anymore, we'd all like to see him in a third pairing role, he is a great penalty killer. The things he's good at all apply to the penalty kill. He can get the puck out. He can get it out quickly. He doesn't have to make a breakout pass on the penalty kill. All he has to do is get the puck up and out, and he blocks a ton of shots. So now the Devils are missing their two best penalty-killing defensemen from last year, and losing Green and Lovejoy retiring. And then they scratched Pavel Zacha one game. It is what it is. He's been in the lineup the rest of the time. But then their penalty kills it's been garbage, and just like the rest of the team pretty much. And in all honesty, like, their 5v5 numbers are bad, but the fact that their penalty kill is getting demolished and their power play can't score is what's going to keep them in the hole. They're going to keep losing games. It doesn't matter how good you are at 5v5 if you can't score on the power play and you can't stop other teams from scoring on the power play. And how they fix it is tough. I think what they did the last few years that worked really well was they were super aggressive. And we're seeing other teams do that to the Devils when the Devils are on the power play. When they're trying to enter the zone, other teams are all over them. They don't let them – the Devils aren't getting settled in the zone. But it seems like anytime a team gets the puck in the Devils zone, they're almost immediately settled with no pressure. So I think they need to play more of a higher pressure penalty kill. They need to be on the defenders. They need to try to limit those zone entries. And they're not doing that. They haven't done that. And when you let a team come into the zone every single time and get set up, you're going to have problems. There's no way around it.
That's great analysis. I mean, that's the same thing I see too. I mean, their penalty kill is just not that good. And I noticed that, especially if there's an offensive zone faceoff for the other team on a power play, if the minute they win it, they're setting up, they're making things happen. Shots are coming from everywhere. And when you don't convert on 2 5-on-3s against Philadelphia, and I mean, granted, Carter Hart makes a great save on Taylor Hall. You can't fault them on that. But, I mean, it's just you got to score a goal just to give something, because those things can be momentum changers so quickly. It's either, you can kill a penalty and it keeps the game close, or you're down in the game, you get a power play goal, and the game is tied, you got energy. And it's just, it's one of those things. But you know what? There are some positives, I guess you could say, that they're doing. Offensively, they can be a lot better too. But, Hall, Palmieri, Hischier, hopefully, day to day with him. So maybe that's the thing that gets Jack Hughes going, playing with a guy like Hall and Palmieri. Yeah,
I'm actually really excited to see that line. I didn't want Hischier, Palmieri, but the injury has forced it. And so if Hall, Hughes, Palmieri click, then maybe you can pair Hischier, Gusev, and maybe Bratt, Simmons, whoever, it doesn't matter. But maybe that gets Gusev going a little bit. And we saw some chemistry there between Hischier and Gusev in the preseason. So maybe you reunite that. If the new first line works, you do that. You let Nico run his own line with Gusev and Bratter or Boquist, whoever. And maybe that gives you a little bit more scoring depth. I mean, Hughes has looked great. After that first game or two, he's starting to adjust and he's generating a ton of chances. He's all over the ice. His skating is obviously phenomenal. And his numbers away from Gusev and Bratt have They're great. He's got a over 55 Corsi 4 away from Gusev and Bratt, and expected goals in the 60s. So he's looked great since the beginning of the season. He'll get on the board tomorrow. That's going to happen. He's just gone too long. He's had too many chances. He hit 2 posts the other night. He's on that first power play unit now. He's playing on the first line. He's getting on the board. I would honestly expect a multi-point night from him tomorrow.
That's a good thing for Devils fans, especially playing a crosstown rival like the New York Rangers, the big Capo Jack Hughes matchup on NBCSN tomorrow night. That's going to be a fun game for sure. And then speaking of another guy that actually looked pretty good Monday against the Florida Panthers was Pavel Zacha. I mean, everybody's criticized him for what happened, his inconsistencies. But, he plays, they're playing him on the wing now, and it seems – and then I know it looks like he shifted back to center when Hischier went down and played on that top line. Do you think that could be an option too?
I like Zacha. I like where he is now. I like him in between Bratt and Gusev because as much as he gets criticized a lot, he hasn't scored a lot. He's having a great year so far this year. He's off to a really hot start, but I think his highest point total so far has been 25 points. And that's obviously not what you want from a 6th overall pick, but he doesn't get enough credit for how good he really is. His underlying numbers are usually pretty good, and he shows really well. And I think he's got the potential to jump into that Travis Zajac role going forward. I really like him as like a 3rd-line center, maybe a 4th-line center this year, but I really like him as a 3rd-line center going forward. I think he'll be great, and he is a great penalty killer. You can see on the penalty kill how good he is in open space. When he's on his own, it's almost like he feels no pressure, and he is great on that PK. I don't know where he fits. I mean, if Nico's out long term, I pray to God he isn't. If he is out long term, then maybe you do play Zacha in that 2nd-line center role with Hughes in that 1st-line center role. And maybe we do see that now going forward maybe we see that on Thursday with Zajac, Coleman, Simmons as like maybe 2A and Gusev, Zacha and Bratt as your 2B, which is what I expected for the year. I expected Hughes and Zajac's lines to be the 2A and the 2B. If the Devils are winning, I expect to see more Zajac. And if they're losing, I expect to see more Hughes. But I think Zacha's looked great this year. I was probably his biggest fan last year. I thought last year was going to be his breakout year, and I was wrong. Maybe I was a year too early. Maybe this is his breakout year.
Yeah, I mean, I like the opinion there on Zacha. Joe, you got a question for Tyler over here? Yeah, I like that analysis there on Zacha. I like his PK, what he's doing. So, they do have some options, and hopefully day-to-day with Hischier, things will work out. So hopefully they set up her body, which was weird because it looked like they were working on his lower body on Monday.
Yeah, and it's always tough with NHL injuries too. You never know what's actually wrong, and you never know how long they're going to be out. I mean, I think Hall started as day-to-day last year, and then he was out the entire year. I'm not overly concerned about Nico. He'll be back. He's obviously a huge part of the team, so it would be terrible if he missed any substantial time. But he's proved to be pretty durable so far. His rookie year, he played every game. He only missed a few last year. So I'm not overly concerned about him. And at this point, it doesn't hurt to see him in a 2nd-line role where he runs his own line. The worst that happens is it works, and or the worst that happens is it doesn't work, and you go back to Holly Heischer Palmieri. So
Yeah. Okay. So Joe's got a little system problem. So we're in conversation with Tyler Kelley here, Pucks and Pitchforks analytics guy, and we're just breaking over the numbers, going over the numbers. Talked over the power play PK, and one of the things everybody's been talking about is if the Devils were to make a coaching move and fire John Hines, who would be a suitable replacement for him in your eyes? I know Joe and I have discussed this. He's thinking a more defensive guy like Guy Boucher or Dan Bylsma. Do they stay away from the Pittsburgh problem? Or does Ray Shero try to make amends with a guy like Scott Stevens, who we see on the NHL Network? Because the way he breaks down the Devils seems to be he would be a perfect fit for this team.
So I wrote about this on Pucks and Pitchforks on Sunday, and Shero kind of went through this before. If you looked at what he did in 08-09 in Pittsburgh, he fired Michel Therrien after they got off to a 27-25-5 start, and he brought up Dan Bylsma from Wilkes-Barre, and that was actually Bylsma's first year with any head coaching duties. He had only been an assistant down in Wilkes-Barre. So he's clearly not afraid to bring somebody up from the NHL with very little professional head coaching experience. And it's kind of what the Devils have down in Binghamton right now with Mark Dennehy. But Dennehy does have a slight advantage over Bylsma in that he's coached 12 years as a head coach in the NCAA. So I wouldn't be shocked to see them go with somebody like Dennehy. And what I do like about Dennehy is it kind of sets them up for the long-term coaching search next offseason, or this upcoming offseason, if it doesn't work out with Dennehy. However, I could see them going with somebody with more NHL experience. Guy Boucher is one that does make sense. I don't like Guy Boucher as a coach, but he might fit right now. He does run a really heavily structured defensive system, so maybe that's good for the Devils. But it's not the most exciting hockey, as we all know, but it doesn't matter. Wins are exciting. Paul McLean's another one that might make sense. And, of course, I love Dan Bylsma. I think he makes a ton of sense. He is currently an assistant in Detroit, so I don't know how they'd go about getting him out of Detroit. I don't even know if Detroit would allow that at this point, but he makes a ton of sense too. There's plenty of options to replace Hines. And what the Penguins actually did was they brought up Bylsma, and then they had Tom Fitzgerald as an assistant coach under Bylsma, or with Bylsma. And so we saw Fitzgerald go down in that assistant coach role with Hines today. So maybe they're either setting themselves up for a smoother transition, or maybe they truly think Fitzgerald can help Hines right the ship and figure out what's going on. It doesn't hurt to have an extra set of eyes ever, especially when you've been staring at something for 4 years, and you haven't figured out the problem. Maybe that extra set of eyes is what's needed.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. I mean, always having an extra set of eyes is perfect, no matter what you're doing, work, school, hockey. It's always great to have that eye in the sky, and maybe that's what they'll use him for. I mean, they obviously he's going to be on the bench, but like we see in other sports, especially college football, just to bring in that analogy, is that a lot of the assistants are up in the box and up high to see what's going on. And maybe is that a place you think he could start out just to see, maybe get a feel for what this team needs structurally, just to get that high point of view?
I mean, it's tough to say. I don't. Yeah, I mean that'd probably be a good place to start. What needs to happen is maybe there needs to be a more hands-off approach. Take a step back and just take a deeper look. Yeah, I mean, at this point, the Devils need to do whatever they need to do, whatever they need to try to make it work. They should and can try, and they need to start with small things first. I don't know that firing Hines right now would be the right answer. Maybe it's too drastic, but I don't know if it's the wrong answer in 2 games. Who knows? But start with the small things. Start with the little tweaks you can make, and see if that fixes it. In all honesty, like Thursday, the Rangers game could be a huge jumping point. If the Devils win a big division rival game against their biggest rival, who knows where they go from there? So it's hard to say what the fix is, and it's hard to say how to fix it, because at this point there's so much going wrong that there's a lot that needs to be fixed, and so they just need to start with the little things. And I think they've even said that recently too. They've talked about, because guys aren't executing. It's just the little passes. They're not picking their head up. They're not taking that one extra step before they make the pass. They're rushing things. And so I think that could be the case, and maybe just little tweaks fixes everything. But the reality is, from here on out, they have to play like a 100-point pace if they're going to make the playoffs. So there's a lot of work to do.
And you being a numbers guy, I was talking with somebody, and we broke the game. We're breaking the season down in quarters, 20-game quarters, which gets you to 80 games, 420-game quarters, which gets you 80 games. So put an extra game in one of the quarters. We were saying that 12 wins per quarter will get you to the playoffs. So now the Devils are behind the 8 ball. It's like now you got to win more in the other quarters. And, because we were saying that it's about 96 points. So, and, looking at it, the standings over the last couple of years, 96 points, 97 points got you into the playoffs in the East. So the Devils would pretty much have to run the table, which is not, if they can get their acts together, it's not out of the question, because, throughout their history, they've put runs together, especially around the February mark. And if anybody's followed this team, that's what they do. But I liked one thing you said the other day on Let's Go Devils podcast, which was, if a certain general manager who is now in Long Island was here, this move probably would have been made Monday right after the game.
Yeah, I have no doubt that if Lou was still here, Hines would have been gone. I have no doubt about that. And I do like I like what you said about breaking it up into quarters. And Mike Babcock actually talked about that. I think 3 years ago. The Leafs got off to a bad start, and the media was asking him about it. And he breaks the year up to 5-game stretches. And what he wants is 6 points every 5 games. However you get those points, doesn't matter. All you want is 6 points every 5 games. That works out to about a 98-point pace. And a 98-point pace is a pretty much deadlock for the playoffs. 95 can get you in some years. That's usually like the baseline. But a 98-point pace is a lock for the playoffs. And so now the Devils are way behind the 8 ball. They got 2 points in their first 5. And they can make that up. Like, there's no doubt. So I guess they have 2 points in their first 6. So, they win their next 4 games and they're almost back on pace. The problem is they're just so far behind the 8 ball already with all these losses. And what hurts the most is they've had leads in 3 of them. You turn those 2 overtime losses into wins, there's 2 more points. And you turn the regulation loss to Florida into a win. And boom, there you go. There's another 2 points. That's 4 points. Then they have 6 points in 6 games, and they have plenty of time in the next 4 games to get those additional 6 points. But they're just so far behind because those 2 games were huge. So,
and then the division games are just magnified even more because they're really like 4-point swings. So you've already lost one to Philadelphia. You can't afford to lose another one. to the New York Rangers, who haven't played, by the way, since Saturday.
Yeah, and the Rangers have some wins, but their underlying numbers to this point haven't been great. I think they're one of the few teams that actually has a worse Corsi than the Devils. Yeah, they have the worst Corsi in the league so far at even strength. Their expected goals is the worst in the league at even strength. Their scoring chance percentage is the worst in the league at even strength. They have gotten off to a bad statistical start. Even high danger chances percentage, again, worse in the league. So they are off to statistically the worst start in the NHL, and they've only played 3 games, and they've won 2 of them. So they're in a better spot than the Devils, but their underlying numbers aren't good. So if there's a team that the Devils should jump all over, it's them. From what I've seen, it looks like they're not starting Lundqvist in the net. The Devils should be highly motivated. The Rangers are coming off a pretty big break. This sets up for the Devils to come out and have a big win and turn the season around. There's no guarantee they do that. We've seen them come out firing 2 games in a row, or not 2 games in a row, but we saw them come out to a 4-0 lead, a 4-1 lead. They were leading the Oilers. Like, we've seen them blow plenty of leads. They've come out fine in multiple games. The problem has been closing out games. But if they're going to turn it around, the Rangers look like a good jumping off point for that.
Cool. Tyler Kelley, Pucks and Pitchforks Analytics. I just want to wrap it up. One last question so we get you out of here and enjoy some hockey tonight. I was listening to Gino Reda today, and he made a great point about Mike Babcock. And this theory could be applied to John Hines. And that is, and I want you yes or no, agree, disagree, and if the numbers show it, great. Your head coach needs to stop the bleeding. And what I mean is, when the Devils are up 4-1, a team scores, you got to call a timeout. You got to figure out to slow the game down. Is there a way, can John Hines use his timeouts more efficiently, especially if the team starts to blow another lead and just slow the pace down, especially like a team against the Rangers?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I don't think he's taken a timeout yet this year. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember.
No, he has not.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't remember him taking a single timeout. So you're talking about a team that blew a 4-0 lead against Winnipeg, and at no point did the thought go through John Hines' head thinking, maybe I should use this timeout to gather my team. And it's not like there's the risk of not having your timeout so you can't use it in a challenge, because the timeout isn't affected in challenges anymore. It's a penalty now. So there's no reason to hold on to that timeout. When your boat's taking on water, you need to be. He hasn't done this year, and that's on him. Like, he has to use those timeouts, whatever it takes to get it together for his team, for the Devils, and he hasn't used them. They've blown 3 third-period leads, 3, and they haven't used a timeout once, and that's on the coach. Like are out there on the players, but the coach controls the players, and to blow 3 leads and not use a single timeout in any of them, that's a bad look. Absolutely bad look.
Tyler, it was great having you on. Keep up the good work. Your numbers are great. The articles are awesome. Your tweets are spot on. And we'd love to have you on the show again sometime, talk some more Devils hockey and some more numbers. It was great having you on tonight.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me on, guys.
All right. Take it easy.
You too.
Bye. Joe, you there? Joe? Hey, guys, it's Jim Behringer here. Joe, hopefully he's around. Jersey Joe, I'm on. Here we go. And so, like Tyler said, the Devils, they need to start using their timeouts better. They have to, just stop the bleeding. And so, it's just going to be something that they're going to have to work on. Again, a lot of positivity here. And, here, as the Devils progress, they're a young team. And you got to remember that. So a lot of youngsters in the lineup, Jesper Boquist being one of them, Jack Hughes. They're trying to get their feel for this game. It's a fast game. But it's on the coaching staff to have this team prepared to play at all times. And whenever they're ready, they got to take the next step. And as Tyler said, tomorrow night's game is a big game for the Devils, and that the Rangers are a team that they can jump all over. As he said, that their Corsi is worse than the Devils, and it's going to be one of those things that it's bear watching, because with Tommy Fitzgerald in there now, another set of eyes, you got to have to change something, and you got to be ready to go. And it's going to be something, again, to keep watching, and just waiting for my partner in crime to get back on the tube. So, it's going to be a big game, and lots of games on tonight. But as we addressed before, with Nico Hischier not here in the lineup, probably look for Jack Hughes to stay there. So, just waiting for Joe to come back. He's had some technical difficulties throughout the interview. Hey, you back?
Yeah, I hear you.
Oh, that's so weird. I don't know what happened here, folks. We had some technical difficulties during the interview. My co-host.
I think what happened was you didn't have your earbuds in. For some reason, with Anchor, it doesn't always do it when you don't wear your buds.
I had my earbuds in the entire interview with Tyler. So I don't know. I don't know what happened there. But we had a great guest on. Unfortunately, Joe could only ask one question. For some reason, Anchor, you're killing us here, because I need my co-host on this.
Yeah, Anchor. I was trying to do business on there.
But I did my best to carry the Jersey Joe corner, and with Tyler, and I hope the fans enjoyed it. He was a great guest to have on. Lots of stuff we covered. Thank God for Anchor. It saves everything. So, so let's go. I mean, Devils Rangers tomorrow night. It's a big divisional matchup.
Here's the thing. Like, as bad as this season starts, you can't go any lower than that. I mean, you have lost already to the Bruins, which, they own us already. You already lost to the Flyers in Philly, but we get the Rangers in our own house. We're back in our own place. We can actually feel offensively capable for once in a while, because everyone started clicking. I mean, Zach has scored. You had Hall score. It's going to be maybe tomorrow Jack Hughes gets those few points that Tyler Kelley was talking about. I know I couldn't get much in there because there was some awkward difficulties, kind of like how this coaching conundrum's been a little bit, but you never know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Tyler was saying. I think Jack Hughes is going to get his points tomorrow night. It just feels like it's set up perfectly for him. he's been knocking on the door. Knocking on heaven's door. He really is.
Like, the way he came so flipping close. I wish I could say expletives, but I really can't because I have family listening.
Right. We can't use expletives, too, because, we don't know what the FCC is looking at. This is a podcast. We're trying to be fan-friendly. We don't want to curse. So,
and who knows if you're learning English for the first time, so we want to keep it clean.
Bad words, not a good thing.
Yeah, so anyways, I expect a lot of expletives tomorrow when both teams go at each other. I mean, Lord forbid when they start putting the mini behind-the-scene microphones, amplifying stuff. And that is going to sound like an HBO series.
It really is. No, it really is. I mean, look, Chico said it best the other night. Because as I was coming back from Montreal, what an experience. If you haven't been to a game at the Bell Center, go. It's a great experience.
That's a dream. That's a
great experience. It's a great experience to go to the Bell Center. Like I said, hopefully, if you're available, I'm bringing some people. I'm going up for the draft. So if you want to come with, we could do a live show from the draft. That would be awesome. But that's down the road. We're focused tomorrow night. But the one thing Chico said is that no matter how bad things got in the 80s when he was here, the team always got up to play the Rangers. And that stuck with me because that's what my parents told me too. I wasn't born yet when the team came into New Jersey. My parents got season tickets in 82. They've been there. So all the good times. But they said the Devils always played good against the Rangers. Didn't matter how bad they were the rest of the regular season. They played hard against the Rangers, and they wanted to beat the Rangers.
I will always say this, even when I grew up in Western Mass, even though I never, liked anything about, Manhattan stuff and all that, I never liked the Rangers to begin with. And when I moved to New Jersey in 2005, this is my mom's native state, and I never really cared about the city, honestly. So, and knowing about Madison Square Garden, the Rangers, someone tried to get me to be a Ranger fan. That never worked. I didn't like the person.
No.
So I had a buddy named Alex Goldstein who was a big Devils fan back then, and I really liked him, and he and I both clicked. So I became a Devils fan back in 2005, 2006 season, and I just always felt close to New Jersey. And when you see the Devils playing the Rangers, whether you see that blue shirt or that blue jersey, your spirit arises. Whether you know that or you don't, it just comes right out of you. Like sometimes you don't want to talk to it.
Yeah, I mean, look, everybody gets pumped up for that game. It's Devils Rangers. It's gonna be on national TV tomorrow, so. We don't have the MSG guys. We have, Pierre is going to be in the building tomorrow night calling that game. So, it's one of those things that if you don't get up for this game, you might as well not be playing because it's a big matchup. It's Kako versus Hughes, 1 versus 2, 2 versus 1. It doesn't matter however you look at it. The two brightest young players in the league could have a Crosby Ovechkin type feud going down the road.
I will tell you, when I watch both them play in the World Juniors, it's one thing to have a really good power forward. Nothing against Campbell Cackle, but the league is starting to go more towards the Jack Hugheses. Sure, Campbell Cackle scored his first point. I don't really give a darn because it's just that one point. It doesn't mean anything until you get a Stanley Cup or anything like that. You look at Patrick Elias when he came into the league in what was it, 95, 96?
96, yeah.
So he came in 96. He didn't quite light the world on fire yet, but then he started lighting it up in the next, second, third season he was playing in the league. So a lot of people started jumping the gun on Kako and saying, "Oh, Hughes isn't good enough." That's garbage. I hear people say, "Oh yeah, Jack Hughes is 170 pounds. He looks like he's getting killed out there." Well, this is the NHL, but you're not going to have those big burly defensemen for very long.
No, I mean, look, it was also depends on need, and it also depended on when this draft took place. So hypothetical, let's play the hypothetical game for a minute. With the National Football League, free agency opens before the draft. Say that happens with the National Hockey League. Do the Devils take Jack Hughes if they can get a number one center in free agency? Or do they go with the power forward in Kako? My guess is they probably still go with Hughes, but again, it just changes your perspective. It's all about needs, and it's not like neither guy's lighting the world on fire. So listen to the trash talk all you want. It's not going to change a darn thing. Neither guy has lit the world on fire. Okay, so let's beyond that.
And like I've seen before, like Jack Hughes has come so close on a lot of these scoring drives that if you took just half of them, maybe the Devils win at least half of these games. Maybe we're 3-3. Maybe we're 4-2.
Yeah, I mean, and then he came so close. Like you said, the other night he came so close. He had 2 posts, and you could see the frustration on his face. It wasn't even like he was just sighing. He slammed his stick. He got mad, and that's something you want to see out of your players because he's frustrated. He knows he can be better. He knows he should have points. He knows he should have goals. And maybe him playing on the top line wakes him up. I heard another suggestion today, and I want to get your thoughts on it because I know you ask me the questions. So I'm going to ask you a question today. What are your thoughts about if Jack Hughes moved to the wing?
I think it's going to be just fine. I mean, if you have him on the second line doing wing, the only question is, would Jesper Boqvist be your center? I would do it if he was our center. And get Boqvist playing. He's a highly skilled winger. We are so lucky to not have sent him back to Sweden. And I think Hughes will do excellent on the wing with him, especially with Bratt on the wing.
Yeah, I mean, look, I heard that as a suggestion today. Why not Hughes on the wing? I said to myself, well, if Kane does it, Elias did it for years, it could work. It's just something to get the team a spark. You got to find – you're looking for answers. You're pulling at straws here. And like I said, him playing with Hall and Palmieri, that top line, especially if he shoots out, he's day-to-day, so hopefully that doesn't turn out longer.
I can confirm that Amanda Stein via Twitter 5 minutes ago, hashtag NJ Devils, John Hines confirmed today that Nico won't play against the Rangers. My best guess, given today's practice lines, is that we'll see Hughes centering Hall and Palmieri tomorrow night. So that first question you asked me before about wing, doesn't look like it's going to occur.
No, I mean, look, it's not going to happen tomorrow, but it could be an option if the Devils struggle. Because you've seen guys switch over to the wing that were supposed to be centers, and they're better off on the wing. But Hughes is a natural center, so I don't see it, but it's a suggestion. So it's an option. You got to look for options out there, especially when you're struggling.
Yeah, you got to tinker things slightly. You don't want to change the lines, like guy from one line to another. You want to change them center to wing to wing, because there are some guys that are stronger, like Tyler said, on your off wing or your strong wing. Like for instance, like when I played floor hockey, I did really good shooting from both wings, but I'm a righty, so I tend to be more right wing when I shoot from that area. So if I was Jack Hughes, I wouldn't be surprised if he, if he was just switching, sides with someone else during puck possession, going from center to left wing, because he moves around the ice. He doesn't stay stationary.
Yeah, and that's something that he's just been working on. His wheels are there. I mean, as you saw from last week, and I saw the show and you and a lot of people, I posted last week when I was at the game against Edmonton that he had one of his best shifts together because he kept moving his legs. And that's when he's most dangerous, is when he's moving his legs, getting in those high danger areas, just with the puck, he had this one shift where he came over the line, got the puck, made a couple of moves, kept it outside, and then boom, shot from the point. And I mean, it was a long distance shot, but still he shot the puck and he got into a position to shoot the puck. So he's gaining more confidence with each game.
And one of those other games I was at, the Edmonton game, was seeing him, trying to go all out on Philadelphia. And Philadelphia wanted no part of him. So when we watched him, Hey. So for some reason, it seems like either the weather or it seems like Anchor's pulling the trap on us today. I don't know.
I don't know, man. It's weird. I mean, we're getting in a flow of conversations here. But anyway, you were going to – I forget what your point was. I think you were bringing up something about Hughes again.
Yes. We were talking about Hughes' legs getting going. You talked about how good he was at the Edmonton game, getting it going. I noticed it with Jack versus the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Flyers were playing that low blue line trap where they just wanted to trip and just kill the penalty while they had a man serve the two-man minor. And then they had that Stoling penalty where the one Flyer touched the puck with his hand. So if anyone remembers Jared Stoll, that's what that is.
Yeah, and so, the Flyers, again, you pointed out to me that they purposely tripped him, which they did, obviously, that they're the Flyers.
They're the freaking Flyers.
Exactly. But, he's making progressions. He's doing well. And, a kid who's pegged to get 50 to 60 points this season, don't hit the panic button yet. Like, look, it's 6 games in. He's going to get a goal. It's just you got to just be realistic. Like I've told everybody from the beginning, just be realistic with his expectations. He's going to get on the board. It's just a little adversity, and they'll be fine, and he'll be fine.
Yeah, and like you said, you had him pegged for 60. I had him pegged for 65. It's still doable. I remember doing a trade in fantasy Puck Authority that I traded Gabriel Landis and I traded Torrey Krug, a forward and a defenseman to get Jack Hughes because, a lot of people are down on Hughes. And how many people can find a superstar center for that low of a price, for that high potential quality who could break out? I mean, very rarely. It's like almost never. Think about who would have done the same if Connor McDavid or Matthews.
Yeah, and like for me, I have Kyle Palmieri on my fantasy team, and I haven't gotten rid of him yet, and I'm probably not going to because he's going to break out again like he always does, and the team's just off to a slow start. And again, it gets magnified more because it's the beginning of the year, and everybody's freaking out. And, you don't want a 6-game losing streak no matter when it is. But there's time. Just get it together tomorrow. Start figuring out how to play hockey again, and you'll be good.
And then you got the players who will be in tomorrow's game, they're going to probably listen to a lot of metal music. They're going to get their blood pumping. They're going to get stretched out, playing soccer, kicking the ball around, take their mind off the game. And then once the anthem gets sung, they're going to get ready for puck drop, and there's no reason for them to be lackadaisical. I mean, they got to be full out, take the body clean, play the puck. Don't do anything stupid like Miles Wood does.
No, well, we've harped on him enough.
I know. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a call up from Binghamton because Brett Seeney's a guy I like at wing, and he can play center. Very skilled player. That'll move Coleman up to third line and play Boqvist more. I mean, what good can you do with it? John Hayden right now or Rooney? I mean, there's not much you can really do. I mean, you need to use guys like McLeod or Nathan Bastian. Get them going. You know, like spark the physical play. Like Bastian is built to be like a Brian Boyle. And matter of fact, I would be afraid to sign him.
No, I mean, I think it was it Pucks and Pitchforks, the site that you
Nick
write
Villano.
for? Nick Villano was looking at Brian Boyle, and he said, Brian Boyle, you're our only hope. He was one of the guys, it's funny because going back to the offseason, I heard rumblings about how the Devils would bring him in because he's just that veteran presence, that center that you need, that kind of guy. And then it fell by the wayside because the Devils wanted to go in a different direction. And I'm just looking at that article you sent me before from NHL's Trade Rumors in regards to Edmonton. Now, listen, I listened to Elliot Friedman yesterday on NHL Now. I heard what he said on the radio today. That is misinterpreted in what he said. Okay? The Devils, it's too early to think about the Devils trading Taylor Hall. But you and I have both talked about on the show, if he's not committed, you need to move him. As far as the other piece about Edmonton, I wouldn't be shocked if they were in the running for him just because it's another weapon to have, especially to balance out lineups. But the Devils are definitely in on a defenseman. I don't know who it is. I'm trying to work that area because, as Friedman had pointed out, the Devils are looking to add depth to their defense and upgrade their defense. There's no names rumored right now, but they are looking to upgrade their defense.
And I remember, you talked about Mark Mathot. I talked about Essa Lindell. Jim Montgomery of the Dallas Stars. And you never know, sometimes after you get a new coach in, different players get moved into different roles, and some players don't like the new roles. I am pretty high on Lindell, trying to, be someone who can pick up a lot of minutes, and he did that in Dallas last year, and he did that in the playoffs, and, he was very productive with his point production. In New Jersey, it would be great to have a guy that can not only be young, but also eat up those minutes. I mean, we haven't had a really good player like that since Andy Green was a young buck.
Or even going back, further back, like a Brian Rafalski type player. And here's the thing. So I talked about Mathot at the beginning of the year as a guy I would like to see. Now, obviously, he had some knee surgery last year. But if you go back in the Devils' history and look at the guys that the Devils have had similar to PK Subban, they've always had a guy that could stay at home and play D. Scott Niedermayer had Ken Danico. Scott Stevens had Sean Chambers. Stevens then plays a more defensive role when Brian Rafalski comes to the team. So you need a guy that can stay back. And as Tyler mentioned, he believes Sammy Vatanen could be that guy. Even though it didn't go well in the first game, it was one game. What else do you have to lose in not trying it again?
Well, they just got to be able to reinterpret those lines and have those players play their special role. One defensive defenseman for every offensive defenseman or two-way defender, because you reduce them from overplaying their role too much. There's a certain role a player plays. Like when you draft and develop a player, it's for a certain way. Like Nikita Okhotyuk, when the Devils drafted him, it's because he's more of a big, strong defensive defenseman out of the Ottawa 67s. Sure, I'm talking about a draft prospect that's under the Devils, but this is someone, who's a really good example who can be that when he develops into a really good player over time.
Yeah, and you need that defensive defenseman back there. It's history has shown, especially with a guy like Subban. And yeah, everybody could say they've had struggles in Montreal and in Nashville with, but the one thing the guy has done is taken teams far in the playoffs. and everybody talks about his attitude and all this stuff. PK Subban is still a good defenseman in the National Hockey League, even though he's underachieved this year. The Devils got him for a reason, and they may need one more piece on that backhand. And maybe as much as we like to think Jesper Bokus can play in the National Hockey League, which I think he can, the best thing for him, if he's not going to be in the lineup a lot, is to go back to Sweden, because he still can go back.
And right now you have a little bit more of adversity, and you can open up a few spots right now, and you can sneak him in there and get him third, second line minutes. And when you put him on the fourth line, you might as well send him back to Sweden. And there's a reason why Fitzy and Shiro got him on an entry-level contract. That's not to just have him, ride the pine, as they say, but you want to keep guys going. You want to and get them overly excited. And when they do get excited, you don't want them to create that penalty that costs you a game and not being fully assimilated to a game.
Yeah, and the Devils, they have to, it's just, you got to just figure it out. You got to just roll with line combinations. As much as, it stinks that they're not winning or this pair doesn't look as good as this pair, just ride it out. Let these guys build chemistry with each other, because you can't just keep changing things at the drop of a hat because you don't like something after a shift. Just stay with it. They'll work it out, and they'll figure out a way. And if not, then you change it. But don't be changing things every 5 minutes.
Yeah, like, for instance, I wrote about how John Hines can't be the amateur mixologist at the house party. He needs to be the professional mixologist he was brought in to be. But if his big boss, Tommy Fitzgerald, who's on the bench, sees him over playing his hand and not, doing the things the right way, all those eyes and ears that Fitzy is doing, he's going to tell Ray, hey, it's time to pull the plug on John and bring in someone else, and this someone else can do a better job to get things straightened out.
Yeah, and look, Tommy Fitzgerald, he's been on the bench before. He knows what he's looking for when it comes to this kind of stuff. So, and as Tyler and I discussed, right now maybe the best place for him, using a college football analogy, is to be upstairs and just see what needs to be fixed from a higher perspective, because fans, just because the seats look good downstairs, don't mean they're the best in the house. Personally, I like my view from up top. I can see the game develop, and I really like that. And that's where you need to get your seats.
Yeah, when I go to a game, I don't mind getting the cheap ticket upstairs, because I like seeing the formations and the breakouts of the plays, but also, like, you want to understand, like, the better view of, like, whose passing lanes are going where. Like, for instance, like last year, the Devils ran the umbrella during the power, and that really didn't work very well. I mean, you got Jack Hughes, who's going to be behind the trapezoid, and he's going to look for the most near open player of his, and you want it to be a Devils player who is closer to the net, and when you pass it to that player, you want him to shoot it on net. And I also mentioned that PK Subban can't be a passer. He needs to be a shooter. Whether he has traffic or not, traffic in front of the goaltender is money in the bank. You got to cash in.
Yeah, it's money in the bank. And, Tyler discussed it. He wasn't a fan of the Devils' power play either. He really isn't. And I brought up the Toronto power play. I mean, they have luxury with Tavares, a power forward, right in that slot area, right at the hash marks. So, and then Matthews and Marner on their off wings, or on their strong wings, really, so they can, fire that one-timer pass. So they got to change some things on the power play, I think, just to give it a different look. Maybe, and he suggested using Nico Hischier more in front of the net because of his net front presence and, his big body. So, they got some things to work on. I mean, again, it's tomorrow. big time.
And
You
it's
got to
gonna,
play well.
you know what? It's also going to raise the game of Nikita Gusev, and Gusev playing against a fellow Russian in Artemi Panarin. You know, this is certainly going to raise the level of competition, as both rivals are still relatively close to the standings, but both fans, really will make it a very crazy crowd. You know, players are going to be into it. You know, everyone's going to be into it, whether you're at the game or I like to stay home because of those things. You know, it's just one of those atmospheres you can't handle.
Yeah, I know. You know, thank God I can use a press credential for these games because I stopped going to these a long time ago as a fan. It just gets too crazy. I want to enjoy the game, and so it's going to be a fun one tomorrow night. I'm looking forward to it. I want to see if the changes. You know, again, there have been points during the season the Devils have looked really good, and it's just the fact that they can't sustain it. And again, Tyler brought up the point, and I brought up the point to him about how using a timeout would actually be beneficial to this team.
They do say when, a coach way before the game, gets his mind straight and thinks the process out, and once you get early, you can communicate to your players. And once your players are able to interpret it, they can do that for 60 minutes and do so much better. I mean, if Hines has Fitzgerald on the bench with him tomorrow, and I think he will, and I think there'll be a different kind of intensity and a better communication process.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think, if, again, during these stretches, if you had just slowed the game down just a hair, you might have been able to rattle off a couple of wins because they say, Hines has said, oh, we should have had a couple of wins along the way. Well, yeah, you should have. You don't blow a 4-0 lead to Winnipeg. You don't blow a 4-1 lead to Florida. You have the game in hand. You slow things down because, as you see in other sports, mainly basketball because that has the timeout element to it. If a team goes on a run, timeout, all right, we got to reset. Even if they're on a fast break, they're up they make a 15-0 run, boom, timeout, it's coming. But just want to reset everybody.
It's also like when you have the pace of the game is so fast. Like usually when you have a Devil Ranger game, it is fast, but also you get some penalties in there. I expect, because they have Brendan Lemieux, Claude Lemieux's son playing, on that team, I expected, the play will stop because there will be just a fair amount of penalty minutes on both teams.
Yeah, I think so too. Speaking of foul language, I'm watching the game right now. Colorado-Pittsburgh. Colorado, good game so far. Colorado up 1-0. Sidney Crosby said a couple of bad words to the official on the bench. He didn't agree with the penalty that was called on the Penguins.
Yeah, you make me remember a certain time and a certain player back when a certain team was back in the league. Ilya Kovalchuk was 20-something years old, and you had Sidney Crosby, who was like 18-year-old, was like an 18-year-old who just got drafted, and he was misbehaving like an 18-year-old, and Kovalchuk, whereas I want to say something else, but it's not clean.
Well, I mean, you could say the other one too. You don't have to use the curse word. You could say the other one.
Well, Koval Schmuck.
Oh, there was another one I used, but I didn't know about that one.
Yeah, that's a Yiddish term. That's a Russian. So, I remember Kovalchuk goaded Crosby into a penalty. So anyone who's on YouTube right now, type in Kovalchuk Crosby penalty, and that's when Kovalchuk hit the one-timer of a slap shot. He didn't even celebrate his goal. He just stared Crosby down, pointed him, and said, "I got you, bleep, bleep, bleep." You can just think that.
Yeah, exactly. You can think that. Speaking of Crosby, he just came off the bench, and wow, what a goal.
And you know what? Crosby comes in, he gets his points when he needs them. I mean, freaking NHL Network has Behind the Glass. Now I'm turned on channel 590, which is NHL Network, NBCSN. Avalanche, Pittsburgh, it's 1-1. But NBCSN is going to be pretty busy tomorrow. I mean, there'll be some pretty colorful content tomorrow.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun game tomorrow night. Devils Rangers rivalry, the Hudson River rivalry, and everybody's saying and has told me, it's great to see the two guys that have the young picks. The two young kids are going to come in, rejuvenate the Hudson River rivalry, and all this stuff, and it's gonna be a fun game tomorrow night.
What is this? Ray Shiro's calling you?
Yeah, I don't know who's calling me, but I don't know who's calling me, but I had to put the ringer. I had to put the ringer on mute. I think it's a telemarketer.
If it's a telemarketer, it's probably the Devils trying to get you to buy season tickets for cheap.
Yeah, not happening.
No, I know they tried entice me to do it, but I enjoy doing what we're doing right now.
How funny is this? So my buddy texted me yesterday, and he goes to me. He's like, "Oh, you going to the game?" I said, "Yeah, probably you got to write and do all that fun stuff." And I'm like, "Oh, so you going? I'll see you there." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about going." I said, "Oh, yeah, you should. It's gonna be a good game, Devils Rangers." But I'm like, "Oh yeah, but isn't that other team playing tomorrow night?" He's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "I think the Yankees are playing." And I think it's been been a little embarrassingly. He's like, "Yeah, you're right. Maybe I'll sell them." I said, you do what you want to do, but I'm not trying to convince you one way or the other to go or not. But you do what you feel.
Well, for the past several years, like the only two times I've done going in person at Devils home game versus the Rangers was first one was the Henriquez over. That was the craziest game I ever dealt with. And then I also was at the same game. Taylor Hall had that penalty shot goal on Henrik Lundqvist, and everyone stood up. I was in the 120s, standing in that crowd, and holy shnikes, I just felt the energy in that crowd. And
yeah,
it was crazy. We were even in playoff clinching mode just then, but we were just a few points away, and you just could feel it, just like the air after that Hall goal was scored. You knew like a lot of the blue shirts were leaving the Prudential Center.
Yeah,
and disappointment.
Yeah, and look, it's the perfect team for Devils to play tomorrow night, and it gets you up, it gets your blood boiling. Look, my blood's boiling right now. I want to go play too. I just want to play right now, but I'm a little tired from yesterday. I played a little bit last night. Had an early morning with my appearance on Saga 960 with Dave Basso, Mike Richards this morning. A little early morning for me, so but it was good. No, it's good because, we get this and we get the podcast. So I had a little nap in between. So, I'm ready to go, play some puck, watch some hockey. It's a good night. It's fun. Look, we're doing a great thing here. We're having fun. We're talking Devils hockey. We're talking NHL too. You want to, whoever's around, you want to chime in, ask us some questions. We got the answers for you. Don't worry about it.
I tell you, well, last episode wasn't as great as this one. I will say this is the most uplifting one since that one because of all the losing has been so tough for a lot of the fans. And you know what? I was coming back on the Long Branch North Jersey coastline train from the game the other night versus the Oilers, and I was talking to a few people on the train down. One guy was telling me he's not ready to jump on the Fire Hines wagon just yet, but said you give it a little bit more time. You said he probably doesn't survive the last week of October.
Yeah,
if I recall correctly.
That is correct. That is what I've heard. If it doesn't change, he doesn't make it to October. And as Tyler said, and he said it on Let's Go Devils podcast, he repeated himself tonight because I brought up the point. If a certain general manager who is now in Long Island was still here, Hines probably would have not made it past. He probably would have been gone after Florida Panther game.
He probably would have. I still remember when Pete DeBoer was let go of in the middle of December because I was visiting my grandmother then, and it was back when I first started using Twitter, and I was like, "Oh, hallelujah!" because I got Tom Galiti, and I remember this was like the first few years back when Devils Insider started.
Yeah,
And they were talking about how with Dan Rice was on, and he goes, I don't think DeBoer makes it through Christmas or something like that. And I'm like, my gosh, he's right. And I just think, whoever the insider is, I think, one person I saw on YouTube and NJ.com refers to Hines as a dead man walking. I think that's a Green Mile reference.
it is a Green Mile reference. But the thing is, so the problem is, though, as much as we think and would like it to happen, it's just the ownership group and the management group, especially the ownership group, their track record of firing coaches is more about being patient. I mean, just look at them with the 76ers. So you don't know. Personally, if it was me, I would have been like, yeah, you're at the door. I mean, it just can't go on anymore.
Like, I know, for instance, the owners, Joshua Harris and David Blitzer, are both private equity guys. So they have this, long-term, no short-term type of capital idea, the way they run business. So they're always having a good amount of patience versus how we fans are and how we interpret. They look for when the time is right. It's the time to pounce. And I feel with Fitzy is on the bench, and you have Shiro, that extra set of eyes and ears. You have the guy who is keeping track of everything. And while this is buying Shiro time to do coaching interviews in this secret way, you should definitely keep an eye out for Boucher or McLean or whoever. I mean, depending on who we can get, I think Adam Oates would be a good fit.
Yeah, I like Adam Oates, Scott Stevens. He was a thing of Dan's. He likes Dan Malma. Tyler even thought that your reference to Guy Boucher would be good. He didn't think it would be the ultimate fix, but he thought he would be a good stopgap. So
because we had that in Jacques Lemaire,
yeah,
who came back in the 2010-2011 season, and the Devils went on an 11-game win streak. I'm not saying they're going to go win, 10, 20 games in a row. That would be like smoking hot, like impossible, like 1 in a billion if they did that. I'm not recommending that, but I'm just saying, you still have 90% of the season left. You can still win a good amount of games when you get the right guy on your staff or right guys, depending on Heinze's assessment.
yeah, and again, I've mentioned this to you before earlier on about the 20-game segments, and Tyler agreed with me in regards to this. And Mike Babcock has a similar philosophy about getting 6 points to 5-game segments, breaking down the season. They're so far behind the 8 ball right now in the first set of segments, first quarter, that you have to run the table pretty much to get yourself back in playoff contention. And it can happen, but it's got to start happening now.
I believe the time is now. I believe, you got to get it done before that 4th week of October. I mean, we talk about American Thanksgiving being the cutoff. And I believe once you start getting that, nice coaching change, you start holding the other coaches accountable, and you hold players accountable for not playing a certain way. And I've seen a lot of lackluster defense in the defensive zone, and I've also seen a lot of lackluster neutral zone defense that's been pretty bad, and the forecheck isn't quite there. For me, I need to see more fight in the dog, and the dog being able to fight, and the dog needs to go get the bone and be able to, grow and get this team growing.
Yeah, and the Devils really, their defensive zone coverage hasn't been great, especially through the neutral zone. Way too many big gaps, letting guys just walk in to high danger areas. Can't do that. Got to shut things down. Got to be more defensively structured. And maybe that's something Fitz will point out. Again, it's always good to have an extra set of eyes. One person today pointed out to me, if you're gonna do this, you might as well just fire him. Look, you can go to the Lou method of, I'm going to come behind the bench, and maybe, again, I told this to you off air. If you're going to fire him. Don't play babysitter. But if this is a real solution to the problem, Fitzgerald going behind the bench, then do it. Then just work together and figure out how they're going to get it done and get the system right.
I was going to say there's no time for babysitters. Time for the parents to step back in and take over the team. And, I believe Devils fans want to see some fire and some, I don't think Hines has enough structure along with his temper. And I don't think he shows it at all on the bench. And even if he does, it's not well shown on, television. I mean, it's hard to really document it when you don't see his face, fired up. You do see the look on him, but he doesn't show it. I think he's too tense.
Yeah, I agree.
But I would like to see what our listeners have to say. I mean, we can run on and run on about what is his body language, but you see all the other professional coaches that are winning. They show their emotions, and they can be able to show their constructive criticism of their own team and get them playing right.
Yeah, and look, another coach that could be on the hot seat if Dallas doesn't start turning things around either. I mean, look, they're losing right now 2-1 to Columbus. So there's still got a lot of game left in there. That's only after one. But the Dallas Stars really need to start figuring things out there too, because they have a load of talent. Again, maybe they just got to figure out some things there, working together. Bobby Mack's on NBC.
Bob McKenzie's talking about how Malkin's on IR, and you have a couple other key names.
Yeah.
Yet Pittsburgh is 4-2-0 record this season. They still have enough depth, but will this depth help them, for an 82-game season? This is another thing that if coaching in New Jersey is adjusted one way or another, will they be able to harness all that skill and depth from Binghamton?
Yeah, exactly. And that was one of the questions that was asked to me today on Saga 960 with Dave Bassel and Mike Richards about the Penguins. Where do I see them? Where do I see Washington? And I said, look, to me, Pittsburgh is doing some things similar to what happened after 2009, with Marc-Andre Fleury, with their defense. They have these defensive tools, but they're sacrificing that for offense. But yet they have the kids in there, because especially like a kid like Sam Lafferty, he's stepping in and playing well for Pittsburgh. It's not like they need to trade defensive players and get weaker back there, because they only have Chris Letang and Jack Johnson and some other guys. But when the kids come in and step in, and that again is with Wilkes-Barre
Scranton,
right?
Binghamton.
Yeah, exactly. If you can develop your players, you're going to have impact like this. And again, that goes back to what Shiro did with Pittsburgh.
And, Shiro was able to get Matt Murray to play for the Penguins. He got him signed, but he never got to see him under his tutelage because he had been fired because he didn't fire Dan Bylsma after not, getting it through the playoffs. And history tends to repeat itself, and I think, because of what's happening with Fitzgerald on the bench, you can see a new coach coming in being aligned up, and the team could eventually get a spark. And when a spark is sparked, it can create fire, and fire catches on.
Yeah. And, that's all it needs. And it comes down again to tomorrow. Just getting a spark. If it's a goal, it's a win, it carries over. Losing is contagious. Winning is contagious. And right now, things are going against the Devils because they think it's in their mind. If they can just get a win under their belt, things will change.
If they can keep their sticks in the shooting lane, they can get in the way of the shooter and allow Mackenzie Blackwood or Corey Schneider to see the puck better. I believe they will be able to play a better 60-minute game versus a 40-minute game. I believe this team can start pulling the right amount of plays and get the right amount of games going, and they can turn things around. I mean, it's not far-fetched.
No, it isn't. It is not far-fetched. It really isn't. They just got to figure out a way to just control the bleeding and get it resolved real quickly.
And before you know it, once they get the change of who the field general will be and who will be in command for that chain of command, it's better to deploy, each forward line, each defensive line to bolster that goaltender's performances. I mean, the goaltending's really starting to form in a much better role, but, defense and the forwards need to be held accountable at all costs.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, that's the biggest key for them is, goaltending. Blackwood's starting to play better. Schneider's looking good. It's just the thing in front of them is their defense. They just got to figure out who's going to play with Subban. Is it Vatanen? Is it a Green? I think it's going to be more Vatanen. And then maybe go back to that pairing of Butcher and Severson. As Tyler mentioned, those guys have been really good together. And then keep Carrick on the third line. And then whoever's Tennyson and Carrick, there's a good defense right there with Andy Green right now out of the lineup. So, again, they have the pieces in place. The tools are in a toolbox. You just got to use the right tools in the right situations.
And I'm going to make a reference to Saturday Night Live with Will Ferrell. He played Robert Goulet, and he said, "You wouldn't hire a clown to fix a leak in the John, right? Because this would be a friggin' circus." And right now it's a friggin' circus, and you got to get the clown out of the circus.
Exactly. Just get the clown out of the circus and just use the right tools in your toolbox. Be the right field general. Lead your troops to victory. And let's just pick up a win against the Rangers, a division rival. Get up for it.
I mean, they got to think about not only playing their game, but once they start, if you think about, from the movie Hook, Rufio said to Peter Pan, "You got to fly, you got to fight, you got to crow." And the Devils are just starting to steadily learn how to fly. They're starting to begin to fight. They don't know how to crow yet. But once you get guys like Jack Hughes going, they can learn how to fly, fight, and crow on the ice and play their game. They can be the most difficult team there is. You can't just have it be there on paper. They got to be able to do it on the ice.
Yeah, they have to do it together. They got to work together. They have to play together. You win as a team, you lose as a team. To quote the great Bill Parcells, "You're only as good as your record says you are." I'd like to think the Devils are a little better, but it can be all done tomorrow. Reset yourself tomorrow.
And I think once the Devils do get that win, we all know what that win song is, and we need to find our new version of Gloria. So if the Devils can find that, that little something, they can unlock the unlockable, which would be very special. And the fans can start rejoicing a little bit, breathe a little bit better, breathe the fresh autumn air, and get this mojo going. I don't mean Marcus Johansson. I mean, he's up in Buffalo.
Yeah.
But I mean the mojo like Austin Powers, the good stuff. It's the libido. It's the stuff that the French don't know how to call certain, I don't know what, but it's going to be the good thing.
That je ne sais quoi, as they like to think. Je ne sais quoi. That je ne sais quoi. Yes, exactly. So, again, tomorrow night, big. You got the Rangers. Got to get up, get out of your seat, make some noise.
Rock your red.
Rock your red. This is Jersey's team.
This is our team. This is our building. We need our fellow Devils fans to take it back and make it loud, make it proud, and show the Rangers who is the real boss. And I do mean not just Springsteen. I mean the Devils fans and the Devils themselves. This has to be like opening night on steroids.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a reset. It's a clean reset. You're ready to go. Time to play hockey. Time to get up. Get up. Lose yourself. Lose control of yourself. Make the noise. Get ready to play. Get ready to watch.
Pull some Ric Flairs.
Woo!
I wish I could be louder, but there's too many people around.
Right, exactly. I don't want to wake the neighbors.
Yeah. I think we would wake up the state of New Jersey.
Right, exactly. Just get up, get ready, be like, "Ooh, yeah, the Macho Man is here." But just get ready for it. It's going to be a big game. It's a big division game. Like I said before, it's one of those games you got to get up for. Yeah, Nico Hischier not playing tomorrow, so Jack Hughes going to be
the first line.
Boom.
We need people to start the Jack Hughes, because this is where he starts to relish, is when everything is on the line. To make a baseball reference, bases are loaded. You have a lot on the line. You want to come up clutch with NBCSN in your building, and you want to show the world that the Devils mean business. And make Tom Fitzgerald proud. Make Ray Shero proud. Make Dr. John McMullen, who's long gone in heaven, so happy watching this team make a comeback. I mean, there's always a little Disney story that's going to happen, and it's going to be something good.
Yeah, and it's time to get your acts together. It's time to figure out what you're doing, how you're playing, because everybody knows Devils are a good team. On paper, they expect to be a lot better. Now it's time. NBC in the building. Show them what you got, who you're made of. You're not like the team that played against the Flyers. You're sure it's not the team that got beat up by Buffalo. But you're the team that had 2-4-1 leads on Winnipeg and Florida. That's the team you are.
And you came out to play against Edmonton. You almost beat Edmonton. You just got to lock it down, close the pads, don't give any extra emotion to the next team next to you. You want to slow them down, play physical, but don't be dirty. Don't be like those Flyers.
No, don't be like those Flyers, but be physical, play hard, be smart, have fun. The main thing is having fun.
And once we get that fun going, we definitely can hear that win song once again, and we can hear Howl a lot more. But we want to have a great game. We want to have a great season, because we want everyone to not feel like they're watching the Giants get destroyed by the Patriots. No offense to anyone who's a Giants or Patriots fan.
Yeah, no offense. And that baseball reference you had, they got my head spinning. Uh-oh, something's not good. Somebody got hurt. That's never a good thing.
Yeah, I think it was the referee.
Okay. I didn't see what happened. I just looked at my... So,
there was a pass, and the referee tripped against the side of the wall.
Oh, his ankle. Ooh, that's never good.
Out.
Wow, that's never good. I hope he's all right.
I know a lot of us get ticked off at referees and stuff, but this is not good.
No, this is not good. He looks like he hit a divot, and his head hit against the boards. That's never good.
That's not a good sign. I believe they need to bring out the Zamboni and spritz some water against that little area.
Yeah,
because they should take a timeout right now.
Yeah, looks like he's moving. He's getting up.
That's a good sign.
That's a get up. He's
up. Conscious.
That's good.
You see, we are decent people. We have hearts.
Yeah. And as the boys said on Let's Go Devils podcast, you can't blame everything on officiating. The Devils, you can't blame it on that because as my uncle said, if you blame the officials, that means that you were not good enough to win the game. So don't do that. He's not going to walk off on his own. Yeah.
Concussion protocol, most likely.
Absolutely. I hope he's all right going forward. But your
baseball.
I hope
there's nothing on that.
Yeah. But your baseball reference, I'll go back to yesterday, Yankees, ALCS. Bases loaded in first inning, had a chance to score, didn't do it. Looks like the guys are going to be splitting up some duties. It looks like one of the referees is just going to take over linesman duties and call penalties, and they're figuring that out. But yeah, you got to when you have a power play, you got runners in scoring position, you got to capitalize.
And you know what? When you screw up on the 5-on-3 in Philadelphia, you can't screw up on the ones versus the Rangers because Devils social media, we all know Twitter and Devils Facebook groups will be absolutely bonkers trying to hold, the team accountable. And I do know that, the Devils do read what people put out there. It's just that, they themselves know that we want to see them succeed. It's just, we've gone through such a negative vibe that the only way you can go is up, but the way, the pendulum can go is in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly. You can't be any worse. You only can go up from here.
And I feel that because the Devils have been so humiliated, not only themselves, but by, all these other aspects that they haven't capitalized on yet, that they know what tomorrow brings, and they should sleep waking up, hearing the bell ring inside them and be like, it's time to respond and take advantage of these guys. You don't want them to own you in your building, and you don't want Brendan Lemieux having a field day.
No, you don't. You don't want to have Brendan Lemieux. He's a tough player to play against, and
just like his daddy, but worse.
Exactly.
In a more physical agitator type of way. But his dad was a real good scorer for the Devils. But I honestly would rather we shut down Capo Caco from Jump Street and just make sure Jack, gets open and, get Kyle Palmieri set up. He usually thrives in these games. And, for us as Devils fans, this means a whole world when these guys start clicking.
Yeah, it's a great thing for the Devils when they start clicking. And if they can just keep playing strong, playing the right way, don't be stupid, take maybe a penalty or two, but nothing dumb penalty. I'm talking to you, Miles. I'm talking to you, Miles Wood. No stupid penalties.
So that was almost slightly subtle, but I was just witnessing Jake Gensel almost had a nice little power forward goal there on a backhand. If I think of someone scoring on a backhand, and if Zaka is healthy, I would like to see him do it because he's a big guy that is hard to knock off on his game.
Yeah, he does, and he played well against the Panthers. He looked good, so hopefully he can continue that. That's his big thing, his consistency. So we're just looking forward to tomorrow night. Hockey's on right now. My battery is starting to go on my phone, so I can't talk too much longer.
I was going to say, we've been on this for quite a while. It's time to hang it up. And thank you, Devils fans and our new listeners. Have a wonderful evening wherever you are. Let's go Devils and be positive.
Hey, let's go Devils. Joe and I, on behalf of Joe and myself, we would like to thank Tyler, Kelley for coming on, Pucks and Pitchforks Analytics, talk some Devils with us. Great first guest. We're looking to grow the show as always. Can't wait to have more guests on. Can't wait to keep talking positive about the Devils. It only can go up. Let's go Devils. And we'll talk to you later.
All right. Thank you, Tyler. And everybody, let's go Devils.
Let's go Devils. Peace.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.